Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. We're working away on our 1948 Ford 8N. Last time we got the engine, the basic engine, bolted back onto the transmission and a couple of things done on it. Today we're going to dress it out. I've got it painted now so we can go ahead and put on all the external parts and the distributor and carburetor and stuff like that and get it just about ready to run. Then we'll do another video on all that, the cooling system and electrical and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's get started. We're picking away at getting our engine dressed here. And I'm going to show you something when you put the manifold on. The manifold is held on from the factory with these 7/16 fine brass nuts. And it's pretty imperative that we use these, because if you end up with a normal, just a steel 7/16 fine nut, they invariably take they're an 11/16 hex, whereas the brass ones are 5/8. And if you try to use these, it's really hard to get a socket on them in there, and you can have all kinds of problems. So it's best, most of the places that sell 8N parts sell the set of these brass nuts for like $4 or $5. It's a really good idea to try and use them. Now we're going to go ahead and put the muffler on. This is unique in that you can see it is actually an original 8N muffler. I got this years ago off of some old tractor, and I've kept it and kept it and kept it because I knew one day I was going to fix this 8N up. And I'm really curious to see how this one is going to sound compared to all my other ones that just have the, you know, those replacement mufflers we buy today. There's our muffler put on. This clamp, I think that's about the angle it has to be on to avoid contact with the air intake pipe. If I got to tweak it a little bit later, I'll tweak it a little bit later. Now let's have it go out of carburetor. Now we need a carburetor for this thing. So over the years, there was basically two different carburetors used on the ends with a couple of little variations. They're all Marvel Schleblers like these. And you had the TSX 33 and the TSX 241. So the 33 is what came out originally on the 9N and the 2N. And then on the 8N, it was replaced with the TSX 241. So we've got 4 carburetors here. Let's pick one to use. This one, right off the bat, you notice it doesn't have Marvel Schebler cast in it or a model number on there. This is a very old reproduction or aftermarket replacement carburetor. It's made of cast iron, not like the aluminum ones that we buy today, but that one's out. That's good for a for sale tractor. Now, here's something interesting. This one here is a TSX 241, and these two are TSX 33s. I'll tell you what's different about all of these. TSX 241, definitely an 8N. But our 8N, because it's a very early one, it was made probably in the first month or 6 weeks of production. The serial number is less than 5,000. It actually still used a TSX 33. And this one, you can tell by the remnants of original 8N paint on it. This is actually the original carburetor off that tractor. Now you'll notice a couple of little things. The old school TSX 33, this is off a 9N or a 2N. It's got the little spring thing here that holds your high-speed screw adjustment. This one doesn't have it. It's missing. But this is the absolute right carburetor for that tractor. It's the original one from it. So we're going to open it up and see what it looks like inside and see if we can reuse it. We've got some wear on the throttle shaft here, and that's potentially, well, it is a vacuum leak. So what we're going to do is use a piece of 5/16 line, and we're going to bore this out, press that in, and finish the inside of it if we have to, and bush this back to the standard size. The shaft size is a 1/4 inch. So I've got a 1/4 inch drill in here, and you can see it goes in and out there without touching or grinding. So we know we've got this perfectly plumb and perfectly centered under the drill. So now we're going to get this out of here and get the 5/16 drill in there and run it through. So we'll just go gently down. A little cutting oil, never hurts. Cast iron drill's nice and easy. There we go. Now we can put our bushing in. It's not really going to be an interference fit, so we're going to use some green Loctite to bond it in there, and everything should be good. So the seal is in. There we go. Now we can install the throttle blade. Where did I put it? There it is. So to do this, we've got the idle speed screw backed all the way out. So we can close this against the throttle bore and get it perfectly positioned on the shaft. So I just take them down and back them off a hair. And then hold that shut when I kind of jiggle the screws. That's good. Even feels good. Perfect. Okay, so that's good. Our throttle shaft is rebushed and it's got a new seal in it. Now, I've already installed the needle seat. Now we can put in the needle valve. You notice that's a steel one, so it's very important to turn off your fuel valve at night to prevent a leak. Now our venturi goes in. A new gasket. I made this one because I ran out of pre-cut ones. I'll have to order some. Not that I never use them or anything. Then we can install our float. There we go. Check the float level. Level. That's pretty good. Okay, we can sit this aside for now while we work on the bottom. Not really much to do here. Just screw in this thing. I've already blown this all out and everything. It's nice and clean. There we go. Now we can put the two halves together. It's always nice, you want to hear the float going up and down. Then 4 little screws. There we go. Now we install a power needle. Just run that down to the bottoms and then back it out 2 turns, and that's a good starting point for your final adjustment. Same thing with the idle mixture screw. In till it bottoms and out 1.5 turns. Then the idle speed screw. We go into it contact, see it's just starting to move, and then give it 2 full turns. And that'll be pretty close to what we need. Pop a new gasket on there. At least I had some of those. And the last thing we do is install this. This is the inlet screen. This is your last line of defense. So you basically got 3 screens. There's one on the standpipe inside the fuel tank. There's another screen inside the sediment bulb or the fuel valve. And this is the 3rd screen. Always got to make sure this one's there. Ferguson's don't have this. Shame on them. So one thing I like better on a Ford. Well, there's lots of things I like on Fords. But anyway, I wish the Fergusons had this. I actually put one of these on my Ferguson. I modified the carburetor. I shouldn't talk and do Teflon tape at the same time, obviously. There we go. We're not going to put that in now. What we're just going to put in here now is a couple of pipe plugs because this thing has got to get painted with a nice coat of 8N red. Need 2. And then the other thing I do is these things come with they come with a plug in the bottom. I always change it to a petcock, so anytime I want, I can empty the contents of the fuel bowl. There we are. Ready for paint. Now we're going to get our distributor ready. I'm okay with the points. No problem there, but somebody gave me this Pertronics unit. So what the heck, I'm going to try it. I downloaded the instructions from Google, so we're going to follow them. First, I guess we got to just take the coil and everything off and get down into the guts. Now we have to remove the breaker plate. That's pretty straightforward. We have to remove the timing screw and then pull out this clip, undo the wiring screw, and it comes right out. I've got everything out. I checked and made sure the rear bushing in the distributor is good. It's good. And I also checked to make sure that the advanced mechanism is free and returns nicely to 0. And it does. Now we'll continue with the Pertronics instructions. Alright, now we install the Pertronics pickup magnet over the cam that used to operate the points. And we could put this new, I'll still call it a breaker plate. We could put the breaker plate back in. I've got this installed now and the clip put back in. It took me a little bit because I found one thing was missing. There's like a little carriage bolt that goes through here that comes out and you put a nut on it so you can lock the timing adjustment. That was missing, so I had to make something. But anyway, it's made now. So we can carry on here. Next step is to run the red power wire out to the outside world. They didn't supply a grommet or instruct you to use one, but I put a grommet in there anyway. It looks better, and it'll seal it better. That's that all buttoned up. Pertronics installed. Now I have to put in that gasket. Put our rotor button on. And then we can install the distributor cap. But I'm missing the gasket for that. I have to see if I can find one. I have no clue if this is a 12 volt coil or a 6 volt coil. But this tractor was running on 12 volts before. And I'm pretty sure this is the distributor that was on it. So we're just going to put this on and see what happens. Now we can put the carburetor up and we'll attach a new operating link to the governor. We'll leave the air intake pipe in the air cleaner until we know we've got this thing running good. It's a pain in the neck putting it on and off and on and off and on and off. I guess next thing to go on now is going to be our distributor. You never ever have to worry about timing these. They're driven by this slot drive. And if you can see, the slot is slightly off center. So it only goes in one way. Now, that being said, on these later aluminum bodied ones, you do need to be careful because it is possible to get it started kind of backwards and you can pull it in and snap your housing. But if you feel it go in and it's in, it's straight. You needn't worry about it. So what we're going to do now is get her lined up. The small side is there, pointing at that bolt hole just above it. Now, this thing should go right in. You can see we've kind of mimicked the angle that that's on there. So we should be able to get it to just pop right in. There we go. And she's in. Now we'll get the bolts in, and that's in for keeps. Once you've got it running, you fine-tune the ignition timing. You loosen off this nut. Now, on a one that still has the points in it, it'll be a screw there. And you loosen it off, and there's a pointer there, and there should be a graduation on here. But this piece, the rectangular piece there, is something I had to make because the original one was long gone. And then you can change the timing by moving the breaker plate. So we've got it set basically in the middle, and we'll see how it runs when it starts up. Now we'll get the starter in, because I want to put all this stuff on this side, but I can't do that. Starter has to go in first. There's nothing holding these starters together, so when you take it out, make sure you've got a 5/16 nut handy to stick on there, or the thing will just all come apart in your hands. And on some of these, you see how that hole is egg-shaped. That's to allow the starter drive to get past the flywheel. Some of them, it's not egged out quite enough, and it can be a bit of a struggle to get the starter in. All right, well, this is attempt number 2 at sticking the starter in. The first time I went to put it in, I looked and noticed that I was looking at chamfers on the ring gear teeth, which means stupid me put the ring gear on backwards. My brain was in car mode when I did it, as in a car. Usually, the pinion on the starter pushes out to engage the ring gear, and that's how I put it. Not realizing that, on these tractors, the pinion is behind the ring gear and pulls into it. So I had to flip the ring gear around. And when I took it back off and switched it around, it got a little bit stretched. So it didn't really have the interference fit that it needed on the flywheel. So we just went around and tack welded it every 90 degrees to make sure it stays put. We've got this side of the engine pretty much all put together. What I've started working on now is getting the secondary wires for the ignition installed. I've got them all run down through the tube, and I just have to adjust the length of them to get them right. These are suppression wires because they are resistor wires. They're electronic ignition wires. With the Pertronics, they recommend you use a carbon core wire. So that's what we've done. And now that I've got that all laid out, I can take my, I call these the painting spark plugs, and put a nice new fresh set of Autolite 437s in it. So we've gone ahead, we've got our secondary ignition all sorted out. We've got the engine area wiring laid in. Of course, it's just loose back here. Once we get the dash structure and everything in, we'll finish up the wiring. Alternators installed. The oil line for the governor, that looking good. So now I got to put some oil in it. We're going with our standard 15W40 T4 Rotella. So I'm going to dump this whole one in, and then we'll see from there where we go. So we've done pretty good now getting our engine back on and all built up. So it's pretty much ready to go. Our next step will be to get the dash panel installed. With part of that is the battery box and the electrical, the gauges, and we'll get the radiator on and the thing filled up with coolant, and we'll be able to crank it up. I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, until then, thanks for tuning in, and this is Kevin checking out from the Claremont Classic Garage. So long.